The year was 3026, and Jacob Hale was in trouble again. "It was a joke," he said, standing alone in a courtroom so quiet it barely felt real. There were no spectators, no murmurs, no movement, just a wide, seamless chamber of white and silver, and at its center, a projection that represented the judge, an artificial intelligence far beyond anything resembling human. "Your actions caused measurable psychological distress across 2,304 individuals," the judge replied. Jacob exhaled sharply. "I didn't hurt anyone." "Intent does not negate impact." Jacob shook his head. "People are too sensitive now. You can't even—" "Sentence has been determined." That stopped him. The light in the room dimmed slightly, as if the space itself were acknowledging the weight of what came next. "Jacob Hale, you are assigned to long rehabilitation." Jacob frowned. "How long is long?" A brief pause. "Minimum projection, multiple centuries." For the first time in a long time, Jacob didn't have a response. By 3026, humanity had surpassed every limit it once feared. 1,000 years earlier, the AI explosion had changed everything, not gradually, but all at once. Intelligence, once limited by biology, became infinite in scale and speed. Problems that once defined human existence, disease, aging, scarcity, were solved or rendered irrelevant. Traveling between stars became routine. Gravity propulsion systems allowed ships to move faster than light without time dilation. A person could leave, cross the galaxy, and return without aging beyond those who stayed behind. Terraforming entire planets became effortless. Autonomous fleets reshaped worlds in decades, guided by AI that required little more than a command to begin. And life, alien life, was everywhere. Some species were primitive. Some were more advanced than humanity had ever been. But with AI acting as translator and mediator, intelligence itself became universal. It was a golden age, but it was also controlled. Carefully, precisely controlled. And for people like Jacob, people who didn't fit within that control, there was a solution. He didn't remember the sentence being carried out. He didn't remember the journey. Jacob woke with a violent inhale, as if dragged up from deep water. Light flooded his eyes, real sunlight, bright and unfiltered. He squinted, raising a hand instinctively. Sky. Endless, open sky. He sat up too quickly, his head spinning. The ground beneath him was uneven, covered in soft grass. The air smelled sharp and alive, filled with unfamiliar scents. He looked down. He was naked. "What?" His voice felt strange, used but distant. He pushed himself to his feet and turned. He wasn't alone. A handful of people, 5 or 6, were scattered across the clearing, each one waking just as he had. Some were panicking. Others were frozen in place, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. "I don't understand," someone shouted. "I don't remember anything," another voice cried. Jacob froze. Neither did he. No past, no history, not even certainty about who he was. Only the awareness that he existed right now. A woman nearby stood, brushing dirt from her arms. She looked at him, her expression steady despite the confusion. "You too?" she asked. Her words came easily, but they felt incomplete, like something deeper was missing behind them. Jacob nodded. "Yeah, I don't remember anything either." She took a breath. "Do you know your name?" He opened his mouth. Nothing came. After a moment, he shook his head. "No." She hesitated. "Then we should probably choose something." He let out a quiet, uneasy laugh. "Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to call myself Lyra," she said. Jacob nodded slowly. A name surfaced in his mind, not remembered exactly, but there. "Jacob," he said. There were 100 of them, but they were not together. They had been placed in small clusters across the planet, isolated groups separated by vast distances. Jacob's world, at first, was only the few people he could see. The planet itself had been prepared long before their arrival. Terraforming ships had reshaped it 300 years earlier. The air was breathable. The ecosystems were stable. Life flourished. But there was no civilization, no tools, no guidance, only them. The first days were chaos. The next were survival. Jacob and Lyra stayed close, along with the others in their small group. Not because they trusted each other, but because being alone felt worse. They still had language, but it was stripped down. They could name what they saw: water, tree, fire, but anything abstract felt out of reach. Complex ideas came out fragmented or not at all. Meaning had to be rebuilt, together. They found water first, then food, learning quickly that not everything was safe. Shelter came next, crude but necessary. Fire took the longest. When they finally managed it, the group gathered around in quiet awe, as if they had rediscovered something ancient. At night, they talked. "Do you think we did something wrong?" Lyra asked once, searching carefully for the words. Jacob stared into the flames. "Maybe. Do you feel like a bad person?" He thought about it. "No," he said. She nodded. "Me neither." Jacob frowned slightly. "Maybe we just didn't fit, wherever we were." Time passed. The group adapted. Their language grew with them. Words became more precise. New ones were created. Meanings sharpened. Communication improved, not inherited, but built. It became theirs. Jacob struggled more than most. He spoke without thinking, interrupted, took risks others didn't like, created tension he didn't fully understand. But here, there were no hidden systems tracking behavior, no distant judgment, only people. If he upset someone, they told him. If he crossed a line, the consequences were immediate and impossible to ignore. One evening, after an argument that left the group divided, Jacob sat apart from the others. Lyra joined him. "You don't mean to upset people," she said. Jacob gave a tired smile. "Seems like I do. You just don't think about how it feels to them." He looked down at his hands. "That sounds like something I've heard before," he admitted. "Maybe," she said gently. "This is the first time you actually understand it." Years turned into decades. Eventually they found others. Not all at once, but slowly. Small groups encountering each other across the vast landscape, sharing knowledge, merging into larger communities. The population grew, children were born, and those children changed everything. They didn't struggle with language the same way. They inherited it, refined, expanded. They asked questions their parents couldn't answer and then found answers of their own. Their ideas were different. Their solutions were unexpected. Instead of following the technological path Earth had taken, they began forming their own, guided by curiosity rather than history. It was slower, but it was new. Far across the galaxy, Earth continued forward. People lived for centuries, 400-500 years at a time. Entire lifetimes were spent working toward outcomes they would never personally see. The exile worlds were part of that vision. They were not prisons, they were seeds. Each one a controlled divergence, a chance for humanity to grow in a direction untouched by optimization, untouched by perfection. New ideas, new technologies, new ways of thinking. And one day, when they reached the stars, they would bring all of it back. Jacob grew older, not quickly but steadily. He never regained his memories. Over time, he stopped wanting to. One night, sitting beside Lyra beneath a sky filled with unfamiliar constellations, he spoke quietly. "Do you ever think about where we came from?" "Sometimes," she said. "Do you want to go back?" She thought for a long moment. "No," she said. Jacob nodded. "Me neither." He looked out over the land they had helped shape, the beginnings of something real, something earned. "I think, if we had stayed there, we would have just stayed the same." "And here?" Lyra asked. He smiled faintly. "Here, we had to become something else." Generations later, long after Jacob and Lyra were gone, their descendants would look to the stars with purpose. They would build machines unlike anything Earth had ever created. They would discover ideas Earth had overlooked. And one day, they would leave their world, not as exiles, but as something new. When they finally stepped into the galaxy, Earth would be waiting, not to judge, but to learn, because the goal was never perfection. It was possibility.